Ever wondered what really happened to Paul Gascoigne? His story is one of the most shocking in football. Here was a man with incredible talent, loved by fans everywhere, yet his life took a downward spiral in ways no one could have imagined. From getting into serious legal trouble to going completely bankrupt, Gascoigne faced struggles that were as wild as they were heartbreaking. And at the root of it all was his battle with alcoholism, a fight that overshadowed everything he achieved on the pitch. His journey is a reminder of just how devastating life can become when substance abuse takes over. So let's dive in and see exactly how it all unfolded. The real turning point in Paul Gascoigne's struggles came in 1998. By then, the signs were already there, but things reached a frightening low when he reportedly downed an astonishing 32 shots of whiskey in one sitting. That binge left him at what he himself later called rock bottom. His manager at the time, Brian Robson, was so concerned that he had him admitted to the Priory Hospital. And here's the shocking part. Gascoigne was unconscious when he was signed into the clinic. The doctors recommended at least a 28-day stay, but Gassa, stubborn as ever, insisted on checking himself out after just 2 weeks. It was a decision that would haunt him, because from there his visits to rehab became less frequent, his determination weaker, and before long, he was back in the grip of alcohol. Fast forward to 2001, and Everton's chairman Bill Kenwright stepped in, desperate to help. He reached out to Gascoigne's therapist, who arranged more treatment. This time, Gazza was flown to the United States for rehab in Arizona, where he was officially diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Sadly, the diagnosis didn't stop the cycle. In 2003, while struggling with work in China, he found himself back at the same clinic, and again in 2004 after his retirement, both times showing how fragile he had become without the structure of football. Then came 2008, and things spiraled further. In February, he was sectioned under the Mental Health Act after an incident in a Newcastle hotel. Authorities feared he might harm himself. Just a few months later, in June, he was sectioned again, and by September he was in hospital after what looked like an overdose on alcohol and drugs, possibly even a suicide attempt. Around this time, financial trouble piled on top of his health issues. In November, he faced a bankruptcy petition over a £200,000 tax bill, having failed to file returns for years. Though he dodged being declared bankrupt in 2011, he still owed tens of thousands. But Gazza's name in the headlines wasn't just about money or his health. His run-ins with the law became increasingly bizarre. In 2010, he was arrested outside a takeaway after causing a disturbance. The very next month, he was charged with drunk driving, driving without insurance, and even driving without a license. But the most infamous moment came in July 2010 during the Raoul Moat manhunt. As police surrounded Moat in a tense standoff, Gascoigne suddenly appeared at the scene, bizarrely claiming he was Moat's brother. He said he'd brought him a can of lager, some chicken, a fishing rod, a Newcastle shirt, and a dressing gown. Unsurprisingly, he was turned away. The incident became a tabloid sensation, and Gascoigne later even sued the Sun for the way they covered it, saying it derailed his recovery. His troubles didn't stop there. In October 2010, he was arrested once again for drunk driving, this time being more than 4 times the legal limit. And just a day after being warned in court that he could face prison for that, he was arrested again, this time for cocaine possession. Instead of facing sentencing, he checked himself into rehab on the South Coast and ended up with an 8-week suspended sentence. By 2013, the situation was dire. His own agent, Terry Baker, went on live radio and admitted he feared for Gazza's life. He said bluntly, "Maybe no one can save him. I really don't know." Not long after, Gascoigne was in intensive care in the United States while undergoing yet another rehab program, this time funded by friends like cricketer Ronnie Irani and broadcaster Chris Evans. But soon after, he was arrested again, this time for assaulting a railway security guard while drunk at Stevenage Station. He admitted the offense and was fined. 2014 brought yet another rehab stint, his 7th, this one costing £6,000 a month. Just months later, he was back in hospital after another incident near his home. By October of that year, police had to be called when he went on a binge, and once again he was sectioned under the Mental Health Act. The years that followed were just as chaotic. In 2015, he was fined and given a restraining order for harassing an ex-girlfriend and assaulting a photographer. In 2016, he admitted to racially abusing his own bodyguard after telling a racist joke on stage and was fined again. Later that same year, he was attacked in a London hotel, kicked down the stairs, suffering head injuries and broken teeth. By 2017, he made yet another attempt to turn things around, entering rehab once more in hopes of finally staying sober. But in 2018, controversy followed him again. He was arrested at Durham railway station, accused of sexually assaulting a woman on a train. A year later, the case went to court. He admitted he'd kissed the woman, but insisted it was nothing more than a peck on the lips to boost her confidence. The jury cleared him of sexual assault, though the damage to his public image was already deep. It's almost unbelievable to think that he was once among the greatest footballers of his time, and his career is living proof of just how talented he really was. His career started back in 1985, when a young Gascoigne made his first team debut for Newcastle United in a 1-0 win over Queen's Park Rangers. At just 18, he signed his first proper contract with the club, earning £120 a week. His manager at the time, Jackie Charlton, saw something special in him, though he tried to keep Gascoigne grounded by saving half his wages in a bank account for the future. But anyone who saw him play already knew. This kid was different. Under manager Willie McFall, Gascoigne became a starter for Newcastle, stepping into the team right after Chris Waddle's move to Tottenham. He scored his first senior goal in 1985, and by the end of the season, he was one of the brightest young talents in the league. In fact, his rise was so fast that in 1988, Newcastle legend Jackie Milburn boldly called him the best player in the world. Around the same time, Gascoigne had his infamous clash with Vinnie Jones, where Jones grabbed him in a painful spot, a photo that remains one of football's most iconic images. By the late 80s, Gascoigne had outgrown Newcastle. Though he promised Alex Ferguson that he'd join Manchester United, Spurs swooped in with a record £2.2 million deal and even bought a house for his family. For Gascoigne, it was impossible to turn down. At Tottenham, he became a household name. He scored screamers, dazzled crowds, and in the 1999-91 FA Cup, he almost single-handedly carried Spurs to the final. That run included a thunderbolt free kick against Arsenal in the semi-final, one of the greatest goals ever scored at Wembley. Sadly, the final turned into tragedy. Just 15 minutes into the game against Nottingham Forest, Gascoigne went into a reckless challenge, tearing his cruciate ligament in the process. It was a self-inflicted injury that would keep him out for an entire season and change his career forever. While Spurs did lift the FA Cup, Gascoigne was on the sidelines, and soon after, the club's financial troubles meant they had to cash in. Lazio came calling, and for £5.5 million, Gaza moved to Italy in 1992. Life in Serie A wasn't easy. The Italian press loved him for headlines, but not always for his football. He struggled with injuries, weight issues, and his larger-than-life personality often clashed with the strict culture at Lazio. Still, he had his moments, like scoring a last-minute equalizer in the Rome derby against Roma, a goal that instantly made him a hero to Lazio fans. But inconsistency and off-field antics meant his time in Italy came to a rocky end by 1995. Then came Rangers, and for many, this was Gascoigne at his best. He lit up Scottish football, scoring wonder goals, pulling pranks, and winning trophies. In his very first season, he scored 19 goals, including a hat-trick against Aberdeen to clinch the title. He helped Rangers win back-to-back league titles, the Scottish Cup and the League Cup, and was crowned Player of the Year. Ali McCoist later said, "We got the best of Gascoigne at Rangers." And it's hard to argue with that. But by 1998, his career started to decline. A short spell at Middlesbrough saw flashes of brilliance mixed with controversy, like an elbow that broke an opponent's jaw. He later joined Everton, where he struggled with injuries and personal battles, and then bounced around clubs including Burnley, Boston United, and even a stint in China. His once bright career had slowly faded. That wraps up today's video, so make sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on future updates.